What is good people? Welcome back to episode 6. Great to be here, Suneet. How we doing?
I'm doing fantastically well, Ryan. How are you?
Not bad, mate. It's as we always start every podcast these days, prefacing the state of the current climate. It's rainy, it's windy, it's horrible. We're inside. The Christmas lights are on in my background. If you're watching YouTube, I'm hoping you're feeling festive. How's the Suneet household coming together this Christmas?
It's going very well. It's going very well. Everything's ready. Presents done this weekend. I'm ready to go. I'm feeling festive. Even though I may not look it, I'm feeling festive.
Well, you've cleaned up. Finally, it's taken a long time. It's taken a long time, but it's nice to see.
Lockdown's over now. New man. Trim is coming on the way. So this hat will be off soon. Yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great, Ryan.
So, are you a partaker in the Christmas events, or you just come home, Christmas tree's already up, you know, presents are online? Are you active or what?
I used to be. I used to be a lot more active. Now that I'm not living here, so I'm not really a part of the household as much anymore. I've taken a bit of a backseat. I'm letting the rest of the family sort that one out between themselves. But back in the day, yeah, I used to be a little Christmas tree decorator as a young lad, young whippersnapper. What about you?
I've been roped in. Much like you, I was trying to use those as excuses of saying, "Oh, I'm not here." I can't do it, but too much abuse has been hurled my way, so I've had to step in. But let's touch on some current events before we get into today's topic. In the world of sports, there's two things I want to pick up. One was some of the football fixtures yesterday and the current state of atmosphere and the games, and the other one is boxing. And AJ, you watched
Right.
it live? Oh, okay,
Just
go.
sorry. Just before we get into to sport, I just want to give a quick shout out to myself because the reason why I'm feeling so happy today and a bit smiley is your boy passed his exams on Friday.
Hey!
To sort of shout myself out real quick, one exam left until I'm finally a chartered accountant. One left.
Amazing.
14 out of 15 done. It's been a good weekend. So I just
That's
wanted to get that one out
crazy.
there. Sorry to cut you off, but I had to shout myself out.
That's a celebration. So how many exams was that? Because I know you've been putting in the work this year.
Yeah. So this year I've done it's a lot. I've done 5 in the space of 2 or 3 months. Right. On the grand scheme of this grad scheme, I've done 14 out of 15 now.
And
So
explain the process of these exams, because I remember you telling me a while ago, but
okay,
there's
first of
not
all,
there's not forgiveness in these very much. You have like maybe a one chance retake or something, or
yeah,
how does it work?
yeah, but this is the toughest thing I've ever done in my life. I'll be honest with you. But essentially, the way it works is obviously we're doing this in conjunction with our job, right, with our employer. So our employer does contribute towards these exams. I don't have to pay anything towards these exams, right? So because of that, obviously, they want a return for their money. They're not just going to allow you to sit as many as you want until you pass. That's just not the way it works, unfortunately. Um, so what happens is for the first 12 exams, so 12 out of 15, for those first 12 exams, you can resit the exam once, right? Each exam once. But you can only resit the exam if you don't bad fail. So a bad fail is if you get 40% or less, I believe. So if you get 40% or less, if you bad
So if you
fail,
flop,
if you flop the exam, there's no return. I mean, you could have a chat obviously with some people. You might be able to swing it your way, and if you've got a reasonable excuse or whatever, they might give you another chance. But realistically, if you've just flopped, then there is no other chance. There's no reset. However, if you don't flop and if you get close, let's say to the pass mark, but you still fail, you get one reset. If you then fail that reset again, doesn't matter what score, how close you are to the pass mark. If you fail the reset, it's done. So that's the way it works. Now, for the last 3 exams,
yeah.
so that was for the first 12. For the last 3 exams, there is no more bad fail. So they give you some leeway. So you could fail the first sit as badly as you want, and
Okay.
you get another resit. But again, same rules apply on the resit round. If you fail that, it's pretty much done. So it's
Yeah.
tough. It's tough. And obviously, the hardest thing about these sort of exams is just the amount of content compared to the length of time. So, for example, we will start like our revision for an exam about 2-3 months in advance, and we sit sort of 3 together. normally, 3 in a row. So you're doing 3 different exams. And one day, I haven't got my stuff with me today, but one day I will show you the size of the content book and you will be amazed. But yeah, it's tough. But we're here now, 14 out of 15.
Trailblazing, chartered accountants, aspiring chartered accountants got to know who to hit up now.
Yeah.
And as we're tracking, you've got one more to go. So is this last one a culmination of everything you've done in the last 2 years, or is it just kind of the next module complete? Boom.
Yeah, I think so. It's called case study. So we get a case study. It's a lot different to the other ones. You don't really get. You need to revise this one as much. Like a couple of weekends to revise it, because you get a case study. You can't just need to learn the case study. And again, I think it's like an accumulation of all of our prior stuff that we've learned.
Yeah.
We just have to like write a few like a sort of an essay, I guess. I don't actually know how this one works. This one's a bit of a grey area where not a lot of people know it until they've done it. But yeah, it shouldn't be hopefully as difficult as the previous ones, which is nice.
That's exciting, and I think that's going to come back around a bit later in this conversation, and some of the things I want to pick up. But back to the sporting events, AJ, you mentioned you watched them last night. What was your opinions?
My opinion, yeah, Pulev. For me, it was a mismatch. That's what I felt like in the fight. Joshua let him get back into it for a little bit, and I don't know why. He had him in the 3rd round, had him down, looked fairly comfortable, didn't finish the job off, and then it kind of just sort of rolled to the 9th round where nothing was really happening too much, and then he just finally finished the job off. So Joshua looked good, yeah. He looked slick.
My issue with it all, right, is it's a real filler fight. It's not the main event. It's like, okay, yeah, Joshua's back on TV again. Great, let's support him. Great. Who is this guy he's fighting? Okay. We all know who we want to see him fight. And whether it's his fault or not, I know the agents are kind of dictating who it is, and it's sensible for him to have these extra fights that continue to get you paid. But I feel like he's losing traction in terms of getting that main event fight that everybody wants to see, and the possibility of it happening now is disappearing. What's your thoughts?
Well, first of all, can we clarify who you're talking about? Are you talking about Fury or Wilder?
Both.
Okay.
I need to see them fight.
Yeah, they have to fight.
Both.
They have to fight. Well, the thing is, after the fight, Joshua was talking, because he obviously got asked that question, obviously, after the fight. And he was talking about, listen, all I care about is my legacy. Whoever's got the belt, I'm chasing. Tyson Fury has the belt now, I'll have him. If it's Tyson Fury, it's Tyson Fury type of thing. To be fair, I think it's more of a money issue why it's taking so long. I think that's what most of the time it is in boxing. I think it is who gets paid more, how do we do the split, blah, blah. I think that's where a lot of it comes down to, rather than fighters running. Because especially Joshua, he knows eventually he's going to fight. If he really wants to cement his legacy, he's going to have to fight at least one of these Fury thing. But like you said, yeah, this was a bit of a filler. I do agree with you. This was a bit of a filler fight. He was the mandatory. I hate that rule. A mandatory fighter, so he has to fight him for the belt. But we are waiting for the big one. I genuinely believe now that it's going to happen next year. Definitely. I don't know about Wilder, but definitely Fury, Joshua. Now, after that performance, it was easy. It was light work. Now, let's get cracking. Let's make.
And it's time with the fans coming back in next year. It will be a big event, and that leads me swiftly into the Man City game. Don't know if you watched it.
I watched it.
You did watch it. Well, let's just say, with the current state of no fans at a derby, I don't know if you're allowed to call it a derby anymore. Can it be called a derby anymore? Because the tameness of these games is unbelievable, and it's never more stark than in a derby game where you're supposed to have these two teams going at it for more than just football. For more personal reasons, I mean, that might have shifted over the years and how the derbies are perceived. But God, it was dead.
Listen, I wish I could have that 2 hours back in my life. Honestly, if you haven't watched that match, don't go watch the highlights. There's nothing for you to watch. That match was awful. I couldn't believe it. Even though, like you said, there's no fans, maybe it lost that bit of edge, bit of bite. But I just thought City would attack it. Like Man United are having problems. Obviously, they're going through some internal issues. I thought City would come out just attacking them, trying to prey on their weakness a little bit. To be fair, Man United did defend well. I'll give them that. So it wasn't all City's fault. I think United were quite organised. But yeah, I wish that was just There was nothing in that game whatsoever, was there?
No, completely dead. And let me just shout a bit caveat in there. If you hear a lot of banging and stuff, as I've mentioned in the past, my dad never rests. He's out there working in the rain, and so you may hear some noises today. But anyway, the main topic of today's podcast is all about a location, where you live in, where you have lived, where you want to live. Living away from home. It's Christmas. Everyone is coming back to their hometown, their home place to spend it and share it with their family and loved ones and all that good stuff. But let's just start off, Suneet, by hearing your story. Where have you taken? Where have you lived? And kind of what's your experience been?
Yeah. So obviously at the moment I currently reside in Manchester. I've been here for just over 2 years now. Before that, I went to university in Birmingham. So I lived there for 3 years while I was at university. And then before that, it was purely Nottingham. I was a Nottingham lad born and raised, so it wasn't until uni was the first time I lived away from home. But I do believe, I think you would disagree with me on this purely because of where you went to university, being in a different country. But from my perspective, I do believe there is a big distinction when we're talking about living away from home between uni living away from home and when you live away from home for professional reasons, or when you're working, that sort of realm. I think there's two different definitions there in terms of living away from home. And the reason why I say that is because for me anyway, I went to Birmingham Uni, and if we're talking about semesters, right? Semester would start sort of end of September, mid-September. That first semester will go to early December. So that's 10 weeks for that first semester. In the middle of that 10 weeks, we had a reading week where we could go home, do whatever I want. We wanted during that week. Once 10 weeks were up, we got a month off for Christmas, right? To go back to Nottingham, wherever you want to go. Then we come back in January. And January to April again, another little 10-week semester with, again, a reading week bang in the middle of it. We can go home. And then in Easter, we got a month break. So we got a month break in Christmas, a month break in Easter, and then our final semester was basically just revision and then doing some exams from like May till June, and then you get 3 months off to summer. So really, to me, that's not, at the time, obviously, it's all new. You got to pay bills, you got to think about what food you're going to eat, you got laundry to do, washing up, all this. So at the time, you feel like, wow, I'm growing up here. I'm living away from home. This is what it's all about. Now that I'm actually maturing and I've gone through more experiences, and I've realised what it's like living away from home when you're working, when you've got a job in a different city. I realised that was nothing. That wasn't living away from home. I was at home. I was away from home for 5 months of the year.
You're on vacation.
I was on vacation. I was chilling. I was away from home 5 months of the year at uni.
So what's that distinction though? What's the defining statement that's the difference between that uni living away from home and that professional living away from home?
I think with the uni living, I think in order to truly live away from home, you need to get out of that home comfort zone. I feel like you're not truly out of that in uni because there is so much time you still spend back at home. There's still so much time where you can go back home.
Yeah.
You're technically not out of that home comfort zone. You've got those home comforts back home where you can go return to, and you're going to be there for at least half of the year. It's, for me, when you make that step, like I said, I can only speak from my personal experience, but when I made that step of going to Manchester and working away from home and realising, oh, wow, I'm not getting a month to go back. I'm not getting a few weeks with my family. I'm getting weekends with my family. Yeah. That's what I'm getting. I might get a random week here or there. But I'm getting just weekends. I'm getting a little bit of time with them. I'm getting a little bit of time to be actually at home. This is actually well out of my comfort zone now. And not only that, I made the choice to move to Manchester, where I don't really know that many people here. There's a couple of people who I do know here, my friends, but other than that, I know nobody. So I've really had to rely on the relationships and the friendships I made at work. Now, luckily, I made a lot of good friends at work, and I get on with a lot of people from work, and I managed to, build on those friendships and be able to have people around me to do stuff with, and to, not feel as lonely as it would have been just coming up here on my own and living on my own and all that. But even with that, it's still like, it's still not homely. I still haven't got that homely feel. Even 2 years in, it's still like, wow, I'm living in a different city and I'm still learning and adapting. This is my life now.
Is that because, and I haven't heard you mention it fully yet, but immediately when you start to differentiate those two areas of living, is it more to do with the finances? Is it because when you're in uni, your finances are supplemented by family or by loans or whatever, and now you're completely on your own, like you're providing everything? Do you think that's the reason why more so, or is that just a contributing factor?
It's a reason. I wouldn't say there's one specific reason. I would say that is a reason, 100%, because now it's my money. Now I'm playing with my money, so there's a lot more. There's a lot more thought that goes into every decision you make. Do you know what I mean? Just something as simple as a weekly shop that you do. Now you got to start. I've got to really start thinking about it. Okay, I can't, like, there's a Tesco Express close by me, but I know Tesco Express are a lot more expensive than most other supermarkets. So I've got to think about that. I got to think, like, hang on a minute. Do I want to make a longer trip, walk this way to get a bit more better value for my money? I've got. You're right. Yeah, finances definitely play a part. Especially now because I'm choosing to live in the city, and I want to keep that lifestyle. So I'm paying a little bit more than I could be doing if I was living a little bit further out. So yeah, 100% finances is a factor. But I also feel, for me, it's like I say, it's the amount of time I spend alone now. Is, but like I say, for you it'd be different. But for me, my uni, even though I was at uni and I was away from home and I was in a different city, and a lot of things that were happening then were similar to when I moved to Manchester. Really, like I said, the two main factors are the finances, but also actually how much you are away from your home comforts.
That's interesting that you define it as home comforts, and I think that's where you were coming all together. And like the finances, it's a good point that you made there. But I think more instead of it saying being away from home in terms of proximity, I feel like it's being away from people that make you feel maybe more comfortable, or people that make you feel like home. When you go to university, you're having hundreds of people all in the same situation as you. Everybody, you're living with a bunch of people in the same situation, all on the same schedule. Whereas when you go to work, yes, you're in a grad scheme, but even still, you're in a work environment in which the age range is vastly different. The people you're working with is, completely different backgrounds. They're not all doing the same course. Yes, they're doing the same job, so here you have it. But still, yeah, there's lots of that differences come into there, and then put that together with moving into a new city. It's not like you're moving into student accommodation where the person next door to you is in the same boat as you. You're moving into a flat or a shared accommodation, with mostly in England, where you kind of just completely separate from everyone. So unless you're tapping up friends that already live in Manchester or living wherever you're moving, yeah, it is going to feel like that. And that is something that's going to bring you further and further away. And that's interesting that you say that.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And I'll just add to that point a little bit further by saying, in terms of the difference between uni people and work people, it's a mindset difference as well. For example, when you're going into uni, you go in there to make friends. Everyone wants to, that first year, everyone's smiling, you're trying to make friends because that's what you do at uni. It's part and parcel of going to university. You want to meet new people and make new friends. Now, at work, there might be people who are on the same grad scheme who are just not interested in that. This is their job. They're not here to really make new friends. They've got their home. They don't move in. They might live in Manchester. They might not be moving anywhere. They might still live with their family. So for them, it's like, this is just a job. And that's what I'm saying. It's not everyone is in the same mindset as, oh, I want to do stuff. I want to be going out. Especially for the people who are moving from a different city like me. Because there was a few of us in our year who moved from a completely different city and we were new to the city. So we were obviously a bit more active in doing stuff and going out and getting to know each other because we kind of had to. We had to.
Yeah.
Really. Otherwise, we would, like you say, just been completely lonely in our flats. Whereas there are obviously some people who didn't move city, who still live with their family. So it's not as like they didn't have as much motivation to. Don't get me wrong. Luckily, I was lucky to have blessed me with a year who did want to do that. But there is that still difference in mindset, I'd say.
Yeah. So to kind of bring it back round to our initial one, I'll kind of touch on my experiences so far. So similar to Suneet, we both went to school in Nottingham, and then university, went away to America. So firstly, went to Tennessee, small school in the middle of nowhere. Shout out Tennessee Wesleyan University to all those people who went there. You did well.
All those 5 people who went there.
The town was population 13,000 people, but you got to the biggest attraction in the town was a Walmart, right? So that's Asda for English people. Just imagine the only thing that you could go and do on a weekend, people are going to Asda as an event. So
Supermarket sweep, is that what you were playing?
honestly, supermarket sweep, guessing it, running around buying Cheetos. But no, the reason I went there is play football, as mentioned before, and the team. Why would I pick a school that's in the middle of nowhere? You know, in the first place. Well, the team had 11. The starting 11 was all English. So I'm thinking, I'm not been there, I've not visited. I'm looking at this team from afar, and I'm saying, there's already 11 English guys there. Like, surely it can't be but that bad. You know, if they're there, then I, I should be okay. So I went there, and to be fair, it was a good laugh. You know, university, you're in a bubble anyway. So you're living with your friends, especially in the college football world. You're so busy, you train every day, you're playing twice a week. You know, you've not really got loads of time to think about everything else. And that's in the first half of the autumn, fall semester. And then in the spring semester, it gets a bit quieter. You're training, but it's not as frequent, and you're more focused on school. But after that first semester, I knew to myself, I was like, no, I can't be living in this town for the rest of university. There's more to university for me than just football. And that was a big changing thing for me. I was like, yes, it was good because I had a good season of football, and that helped me to transfer to a different place. But it was a big defining thing, and is how much do I want to take football forward in like, and how much does social life and university life and all that experience combat just play football. So anyway, ended up moving to North Carolina, Charlotte, and then stayed there for 3 years at the university, and then another year after doing a visa working as a copyist salesman. And that was an experience. So once you graduate as an international student in America, you get 1 year visa to continue working. And if you can get sponsored after then, you may be able to get another sponsor, another visa. But that usually is through like the STEM, like engineering, doctors. It's a lot easier. If you're just selling copiers for a living, you're going to be struggling. So then after that, moved back to England, stayed in Nottingham for about 6 months, and then I was off again to London. And now Corona, whatever, we're back in Nottingham for a little bit. So lots of different experiences of moving around, living in different places. And similar to like you, I would say it's not so much proximity, because I think once you're away, you're away. It doesn't matter if I'm London, if I'm in America. I'm away from home either way. And like you may think you can pop back all the time, but like you said, it's not once you're working, you don't have that option because it's restricted to those days off for those weekends. So yes, it's harder while I was in America, but I think it really comes down more to the people, and then also to your ambition and how comfortable you feel being away from home.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting actually to get your perspective. What was then in your mind the main differences between living away from home in the US and in the UK? I know you were different age, so maybe age played a part, but what were the main sort of factors there?
Well, this kind of goes back to your point of it's a difference living away from home while you're in university and while you're living away from home while you're working. So in university, I think my experience would be similar to anybody in England. If I'd gone in England, I still came back for the holidays. Yes, I spent my last period in America. I didn't come home for 2 years, and that's different. Like I was working, I was playing football in the summer. There's lots of other things that were going on that I was like, didn't make sense for me to keep coming back and forth. But the main differences are probably just when you have those shorter holidays, say those weeks, as you explained. I don't know what it would be, but say you have a spring break or a Thanksgiving. you've not got a family in America to go back to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So usually though, that kind of comes together as it's lucky if you've gone there for sports. Like I can imagine it'd be a lot harder if you'd gone just for a certain degree or something else, because the minute you go there for join a sporting team, they kind of become your proxy family in a sense. So when there's a Thanksgiving or a 4th of July and you've not got those people, that history of people to go to, they kind of become your proxy family, and you start going and joining and spending time with them. Or if you get a girlfriend, you'll go and visit their family and spend Christmas with them. And it does kind of change because you feel this huge separation, right? For me, it felt like I always have a life in America that's like this, and then I have a life in England, and there's this weird line where it crosses just over the phone. Where you just update people over the phone, but it's like where does it really come together? But like you said, when I started working outside America, because I still stayed in the city in which I went to university, that first year out of uni, I don't think you fully crossed over.
No.
Do you know what I mean? You're still in that mindset of like, okay, I've got a bit of money, I'm starting to make a bit of money now, so I can actually pay for my own things. I can go out and enjoy myself. I mean, but you still want to go out. You know, you still want to go and see your friends. I'm in university, so some of my friends are still in university, so I'm still seeing them. So that initial year wasn't a huge crossover. It was still just nice to be in the city and nice to be not doing schoolwork anymore, to be honest. But then coming to England and coming to, especially firstly coming back to Nottingham was really nice. It's like, oh, I haven't seen these people for 5 years. Let me just spend time with them as if I've been here before, because you got to think when you're an American, especially if you're thinking about staying there permanently, you're like, I may never come back and see these people again. They may be a memory. So that was important. But then moving to London, because I had this ambition of not just staying in Nottingham, I'm like, let me go live in a city, let me get a different experience. As you say, then it really starts to become apparent, and that difference of like, I'm in a city on my own. I don't really know anyone. Like I know I have friends who live in London as well, but they're all doing their own jobs. You know, they're all been there for a certain amount of time. They all have their different style, lifestyles as well. So it's like, should I have made this move? You know, you start questioning yourself because you're like, I had friends back here. It was all right. It was good. It's all about work, you know, and that's where I start to see the.
Well, it's interesting that you started by saying, in terms of your experience in the US, it's not that much different to what you'd experience in the UK. I feel like it might have not felt like it was that different, but I feel like your mindset was different. And the reason why I say that is because when you did used to come home, right, in the summer, sort of like, you made a conscious effort. Because I remember I used to be shocked at this. This is what I said in the first podcast, and I was like, I still can't believe how me and you maintained our friendship. But I feel like one of the reasons we did was because you went to the US. Because when you came back, because you had that separation, it was like your mindset was, all right, now it's time to get back with my friends. And and like, for example, when a normal person like me would have been maybe lazy with that and been like, yeah, okay, we'll see you. I see you whenever. You were more like, no, when are we doing this? When are you free? And even though, of course, I was up for it. Well, like, I missed you too. So when you came back to the holidays, I was like, yeah, let's do so. Let's go out. Let's go for a drink somewhere, blah, blah. But it was definitely your mindset that I think ensured that every time you came for the holidays, whether that's Christmas or summer, that we got something done at least once. That we got a meet up at least once. And I think even though it may not have felt different, because you had that experience of being away for a lot longer than a person who went to uni in the UK would, the mindset was already about relationships and making sure that you strengthen your relationships when you have the opportunity to do so.
Well, that's a good point. I think it's because you notice it. You're very aware, especially as we've talked on another thing. The only way you're really keeping up with other people is either you're keeping up on WhatsApp and you're not keeping up with everybody. You know, you're getting on, or you're just seeing what's happening on social media. You know, so you're not really involved in their lives anymore, and then there's not really an opportunity which is like, oh yeah, we've got this event at our uni, everybody come down, let's catch up this weekend. You know, there's no possibility of that.
Mm.
And like you said, when you do come home, you're on a time limit. You've got 1 month.
Yeah.
And so you start viewing these relationships completely different. Firstly, when you're away and you're away from home, just in a different country, you start thinking, who do I want to keep up with? That starts to run in your mind. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
who are those people I want to keep up with? Who are those people that I don't want it to be a case of he's gone away, don't even know what he's doing, not that friendship's dead.
Yeah.
You know, so you start thinking about that. But then when you do come home, you do have that action kind of mindset because you're like, I've only got a month here.
Mm.
If I don't see you now, I'm not seeing you for another 6 months, another year.
Yeah.
So let's be careful. So that does change. That is a good point, and you do become way more aware of your relationships. But I want to say, just kind of coming back right back to what made you firstly want to go to, so you went Birmingham, then you moved to Manchester, right?
Yeah.
What were those motivating factors? Forget the point of trying to get into university and
Yeah.
okay, I'm applying to see where I can get into for the best course. Okay.
Yeah.
What are kind of the motivating factors behind wanting to move away, and then after university wanting to move away into a new place for work? Is
Yeah.
it just financial? Is it just jobs, or is it something more?
So in terms of uni, I was always going to move to a different city. I know some people go to uni in the same city and they live from home. For me, I didn't feel like that was getting the full experience at university. So I
Yeah.
was always in the. I had an older brother and older sister who went to uni away. So it was kind of like that was my norm. My norm was you go away for uni. So I sort of followed suit in that trend. I was always going to move away from uni. The question was where. Now initially I actually was thinking much more further away than Birmingham, because for people who don't know, Birmingham was only about an hour and a half away from Nottingham. I was
Yeah.
thinking more. I was thinking more northern, like Leeds, Liverpool. You know, I support Liverpool Football Club, so that might have been a good idea. But it wasn't. I actually Birmingham wasn't on my radar at all, to be honest with you. But then my mum said to me, she was speaking to one of her friends, and one of her friends' son went to Birmingham Uni, and he was saying, "Why doesn't Suneet think about Birmingham? Why has he not thought about that?" And I was just thinking, it's a bit close. It's a bit close. If I want to be away, I want to, I really thought, I was in that young mindset. I was 18. I was like, I want to go as far away from possible. I want to, experience a completely different city. But then I went to the open day, Birmingham, and literally I went to this open day, and it was like, I just didn't. I just fell in love with the uni when I was there.
Sold.
Sold. I didn't expect that to
Sold.
happen to me. It sounds cliche, but I was walking around and I was like, it was like everything's on a campus. You live right there. You don't need to go outside a 5 mile radius. Everything's here for you. We all, you can go out here. You can go out here. You can meet your friends here. And I was like, well, this is crazy. This is like this is honestly a bubble.
Yeah.
I'm quite a lazy guy. So you're telling me I have to walk 5 minutes from my flat to uni. You're telling me everything's all in one bubble and I can do everything within here. Then yeah, I was sold. I was sold. In literally, I was there for about 10 minutes, and I was like, "Mama, this is it. I'm coming in."
So the move to university was because it was the norm. You've seen that. You've seen your brother. You've seen your sister do that. You've kind of the idea of moving away was nothing new to you, and it's something that for the university experience, that's
Yeah,
something you need to do. But
yeah.
for work, like your sister lived away from home still. Did she, or did she come back? And did your brother not stay in Nottingham? So what was the motivating factor
Yeah,
to move to
yeah.
Manchester?
So that was completely different. No, they both came back. So
Okay.
when I did move to Manchester, well, they're both out now. But when I did move to Manchester, both my brother and sister were living back in Nottingham. My sister was working in Birmingham, but she was commuting, and my
Yeah.
brother was working in Nottingham. So it wasn't the norm anymore. So now it wasn't the norm. This was more circumstance. So
Okay.
what had happened was, again, I was going to follow the norm, and I was going to do something similar to my sister did and work in Birmingham. And I was either going to commute like my sister did to Birmingham, or I was going to live in Birmingham because I knew the city now. I've
Yeah.
been to uni there. I knew the city. I liked the city. I enjoyed it. It was familiar. So I built up that experience in uni. I was like, okay, it's a natural move to then go and work there. And the reason why Nottingham wasn't on my radar was just because for the jobs that I wanted, I just didn't think Nottingham was the best city for the kind of grad schemes I was after. I thought if I really wanted to go for the grad schemes I was after, I would want to go to a slightly bigger city where there'd be more opportunity career wise to work there, basically. But Manchester, again, was on my radar. Was never thinking about Manchester. My sister went to uni in Manchester, but I never really thought about Manchester. But what had happened was this grad scheme that I'm currently on, I applied for the Birmingham office, but that was full.
Okay.
So they came back to me and said, Birmingham office is actually full for the grad scheme. However, we've got X amount of locations available. And literally every single location they had, other than Manchester, was south in London, in like near Bristol. I think there was one. There was some like way down south, like near Southampton, and like Dover and stuff like that. Some random places. I think there was one in Jersey as well, right? And I was like, I just don't want to go south. I was like, I feel like there's two types of people in Nottingham because, in fact, I'm going to say the Midlands. I'm going to generalise it. But if you're from the Midlands, whether that be east or west, so Birmingham or Nottingham or Leicester, whatever, I feel there's two types of people. I feel like there's one person who either is more northern, so they want to flock to the north more, and then there's the other person who's more southern, and they go down South London area. I think if you're from Nottingham, you either or your personality matches more northern or your personality matches more southern, and you will naturally flock. Okay, there are some people who obviously stay in Nottingham and stay in the Midlands. Fair enough, they're a bit here or there, but I think for the majority of people in the Midlands, you have one personality. My personality is definitely northern. I'm more of a northern guy. I just don't enjoy going to London. I've got a lot of family in London. My brother and sister are now living in London, so I'm gonna have to be there a lot more. But I just can't. I just don't enjoy it. It's too busy. The people are just angry, miserable all the time. The queues are a madness. The whole tube system just annoys me. So I'm definitely more of a northern guy. So when I saw Manchester there, I was like, okay, yeah, that's it. I'll pick Manchester then. So it kind of fell in my lap. It wasn't really anything that I sought out. It was Manchester.
And it's funny you say that because I was just having a conversation yesterday about the types of people that either move away, stay from home, and let me take your definition and kind of expand on it a bit. I think there's probably, I would have said two before and changed it differently, but I'll say there's three.
Yeah.
There's the type of person from the Midlands, or let's just say Nottingham, that's where I'm from. There's the type of person from Nottingham who wants to move away, always has wanted to move away. There's a type of person who's Nottingham through and through.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let me say, there's a type of person who wants to move away and stay in England and move south or north. That's fine, all right? They just don't want to be Nottingham. Type person who is Nottingham through and through. And then there's the type person who's going away to a different country. Okay. But I was saying at 20, this is what I say, post-university, right? You either become more Nottingham, as in your accent will start to get, it always starts to pick up that extra piece of Nottingham slang, or you start to say, actually, I'm going to move to Manchester. I'm going to move to London.
And you know what? I think for me, that point actually agrees with that point earlier when I say there's a distinction between uni living away from and work living. I think that ties into the fact that when you are sort of post uni, post like 21, 22, you know now every choice you make is going to have a huge impact on your life. And if you do want to, that's when you start thinking, okay, now do I actually want to live away from home? Yeah, I may have been doing that at uni, but now this is actually, my time is going to be a lot less free.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to be able to come back as far as ever. And also, the people I meet there, they're going to end up being now my friends for life, potentially.
Yeah.
Or, do you know what I mean? If that is going to be my sort of resting place. So, again, it's a lot more it's a bigger decision. And that's why I think, like you said, post-20, you start to think, okay, do I want to stay here? Do I want to take that risk? Am I, or am I okay? Am I happy here?
Yeah.
And that's where that conversation.
Well, one thing I'll say is about using those definitions, things I found that I'm a person who's always said I'm going to live somewhere else, right? That's just in my mind. But I will say, from living away, and especially living in a different country, I became more Nottingham.
Explain.
And I'm more passionate about Nottingham, because you realise when you're away from home, right? You hold on to your home traits because you're in somebody else's home. So I'm in Charlotte in America. I'm doing all their traditions all the time. I'm always listening to their culture, their food, their people, right? So if I hear a glimpse of England or Nottingham or anything while I'm away from America, I attach more. I attach more strongly to that. Whereas if I'd stayed in England, it'd just be my norm. So I find myself becoming more, I would say passionate. I don't know what the word is, but I really respect home more than I probably would have had I not been away.
And you know what? I could even add more evidence to that point because I agree with that entirely. Because now that I'm in Manchester, because I think most people growing up in Nottingham, right, through school and stuff like that, everyone bitches about Nottingham. We all like if you're growing up in Nottingham, you're like, oh, it's rubbish, it's small, it's tiny, there's nothing to do here. We all have the same complaints about Nottingham when you're growing up. I don't say that anymore. When I'm in Manchester, if I'm talking about Nottingham, you do not disrespect Nottingham in front of me. All right? I will back Nottingham till the grave. It's just like you say. Like if I'm talking about it, there's something in the back of my mind. I have to pick it up. I have to make sure people understand that Nottingham is a good place because, like you said, it's where I was brought up. I'm in someone else's place now. This is even though I'm in Manchester and I might be in Manchester for the foreseeable future. Who knows? But it will never be my home.
Yeah.
Nottingham is still my home. That's where I grew. That's where I became a man. I became a person. That is my home. So whenever I'm talking about Nottingham now, I'm always talking about it in a positive light. I don't like to talk about Nottingham in a negative light.
Yeah, because and it's funny because I was definitely that person, like you say, when you're growing up, you're thinking, it's whatever. It's because you don't know anything else.
Yeah.
You start to get away, you think, you know what? Actually, Nottingham's kind of a sick place. It's got loads of nice, different, lovely different areas, lots of sports, lots of things to do if you're just a young person living here or even an old person living here. So it annoys me, right, if you're a person who kind of moves away and then is kind of disrespecting. And I think you get that more if you're a Nottingham, pre-Nottingham Southerner.
Yeah.
Because those boys who want to move down to London and stay there usually kind of have that. Let me raise my nose to. Let me raise my nose to Nottingham a little bit because they're like, this is not. There's such a difference between like the south, especially London and Nottingham. Like Nottingham and the north is a lot more closely paired in terms of personality. And I find issue with that. I find issue that people would want to disrespect your place or want to say it's not what made you.
Yeah, I feel like you can't compare any other English city to London. London is the capital. It's obviously going to be the biggest place and have the most things to do. I think if you compare any other city in terms of what it has to offer, it's not going to compare with London. You can't do that. So that's what I like. Yeah, you're right. I think the Southerner would always say, "Oh, Nottingham is trash," because compared to London, it probably is. But it's obviously for its own reasons. It is a great city, 100%.
So where we're kind of initially saying, what did you differentiate from? Why did you motivations to go to first Birmingham, then to Manchester? For me, again, it's the environment and what you see. So my dad's born in Nigeria. Wasn't raised here, moved to Italy when he was younger, and then moved to England after I was born. So already I've got a notion of, okay, you don't have to live where were raised, where you're born. Secondly, my mom and dad met in Italy. That's where I was born. So she has decided in her 20s that I'm going to go and live somewhere else. So just from my whole growing up, it's just been in my head that moving away is something I can do.
Yeah.
That's something that happens, and that's something that's totally fine. So when the idea of going to America there, it wasn't even a second thought. It was just like, yeah, I'll go live in a different country. I always believed I would live in a different country. And yes, it's different when you get there because you're like, this isn't my home. I'm not sure if I'm going to stay here. But as time goes on, and it's really, there's a bigger conversation to be had for people who do go live away, and especially people who go on the sports scholarships, because there's such an opportunity to make a life out there. And you can see it in so many different ways. So many friends who've gone out there. There's such opportunity to make a life or make it what you want it to be. You really can make it what you want it to be. And the thing is, you don't know that when you first go in there because you're more concentrated on the school, on the football, and having a good time. But if you ever just about to make that decision, you really can be interested to go back and do it all again.
Yeah.
Even though I don't think I did anything wrong, and I'm really happy with how everything worked out. It's such a interesting way that you're navigating when you're on your own, because you are on your own. You don't have family and you don't have friends there initially, so it is a completely new experience. And so I've always thought that's what I'm going to do. But then me coming back to England, because could have easily have stayed, and a lot of people do, you know, you get to the end of 4 years, get in 5 years, it's all you know. It's your adult life has been based in America.
Yeah.
So you're like, why not just continue here? It seems good, you know, it seems like I can get a good job, I have a good set of friends here. Why move back to England? So that decision was forced, not forced, but yes, the visa was coming to an end, so it's kind of like a clean cut-off point if I wanted to. There are other ways I could have stayed, but the big thing was I felt like I had unfinished business in England. And especially just like the way I wanted to see my friends and the way I wanted to see my family, it's like, if I don't come back now, I'm never coming back. And that's the it was like, this is their chance. Because if not, those relationships in which I get the opportunity to come back because of long school holidays, long summer holidays, they're going to disappear because you've only got 2 weeks or whatever.
And this is the time to do it as well. This is the age to do it. If you want to live away from home, if you want to experience it at least, I think you have to do it in your 20s. I think that is the best time to do it. I think later than that, it's getting to the point now where your life's almost coming to its sort of prime. So that's where so if you want to sort of experience different places and be able to move about a bit more than one area, this is the age you want to do it.
So how going forward, because for me going forward, it's been back in England for 2 years now. I'm engaged, so I do plan to move back to America in over a year. So I'll have done. That was kind of the initial plan. It's great that it's worked out like that. So I do see my future again living away from home, right? But there's a lot more thought that goes into it this time because it's final.
Yeah.
You know, and for you coming to the end of your program, your chartered accountanship graduate scheme, that then provides a clear cut-off point again. You know, it's kind of the next step is deciding your future, whether it's the work you do or where you live.
Yeah.
So where do you kind of see those decisions going forward, and how are you rationalizing making those decisions for yourself?
Well, firstly, I would say for me, my grad scheme should be sort of come to its conclusion in sort of the end of August, September, right? But I think I'm still on your sort of way. I think I've got unfinished business in Manchester. So I feel like, I mean, to be fair, it's not like I will still be with my employer. My contract continues. It will continue to carry on. It's not like the grad scheme's done and I have to look for a new job. Luckily, I'm all right in that aspect. I will still have this job, and I still feel like, I've got unfinished business in Manchester. At this point, I'm starting to think more about the future, where do I want to settle, and I'm not sure yet. But I've decided that it's not going to be Nottingham. For the main reason now, because like, don't get me wrong, it's been tough living away from home, especially when I moved to Manchester now. How I told you about the distinction, there's obviously a lot less time to be with the family. A lot more of it is phone call conversations. So it is more difficult, and it's a city where, like I told you before, I'm a lot more alone. I don't know as much people, even though obviously I made friends with my colleagues. I still don't know a lot of people there, and I still don't really know the city yet. If I'm being honest with you, I know the town, I still don't know the city. But I still do believe, because it's such a big city and there's so much to do here, I've still got so much to do in Manchester that I haven't done yet. A lot of my initial years in Manchester have been clogged up by these exams. They've taken up a lot of my life. And while I've been able to go out in between and do a few bits, because I've had these exams sort of in the background, I still haven't been able to fully actually experience the city and take it all in and see if it's somewhere where I do want to settle down in and this to be my actual spot.
That's a good point. And I just want to touch on something before we kind of go back into that, because you made the point about you've made the decision that, you know, Nottingham is still your home, still your place, but that's not where you're gonna live. And I think it's important to kind of note that no matter where you go, say it's Manchester, say it's America, or where, you know, there's always going to be a part of you that's, because you know how it is to live in that location. You're like, what would be life like there? You can kind of see it, you can kind of picture it, you know. So they're always going to be that kind of what if, and that's what you deal with a lot when you're living in America. You know, you're seeing your friends do stuff in a different country, and you're like, oh, what would it be like to live there? And a lot for me, that was kind of a lot of this moving back is like, let me just get all those notions of what it'd be like to live as an adult in England. Period. In England, in Nottingham, in London, like, let me just have a good basis so that when I do move back to America, I'm not left with this for the rest of my life. Of, oh, living in America would be this experience, or living in England would be this experience. You know, I feel like that's done. So you said, okay, Nottingham's off the table, and you know, it feels final, but Nottingham's off the table. Is your next not move, but we're 25 now. We've had a few years in work. We're really still young in infancy of work. We're still in graduate programs, right?
Yeah.
Do you see your next move, whether it's your next city move, right? That could be the decision to stay in Manchester in 2 years. Like in 2 years, you made the decision to stay in Manchester or a move away. Do you see your future as being the next move? It would be my final move, or do you see throughout your life there'll be more moves, more different destinations? What's that for you?
I would like the next move I make to be my final move. For me, I'm a little bit different to you in the aspect of you always had this norm about you want to live somewhere else. You want to be able to do, and you're much more of a traveler than I am. You like you said, you like to go back and forth. You've had some time in London, you've had some time in America. Like I said, obviously, I've had no major issues with living out, but they have been more circumstantial. You know, I went to uni because that was a norm, and that's what I saw my family doing. So I thought that was the thing to do. So I went to uni, had a great time. They loved it, enjoyed it. But again, it wasn't because I really was like, I have to live out. And same with Manchester again. I went to Manchester because of circumstances. You know, my job brought me to Manchester. I could have easily done what my sister was doing and got a job in Birmingham and commuted, or got a job somewhere close to Nottingham and commuted. I could have done that.
Yeah.
It was never like, oh, I have to move out, sort of thing. I've never been one to always be on the move. I like to be settled. That's the thing about me, and that's why I probably, if we go into more about, you know, what the pros and cons of us living out, I probably have more cons than you, because I prefer being settled, and I also prefer being having more home comforts. You know, it's been more of a struggle living in Manchester, not being able to be with my family as much, because I'm a family guy, I'm a family man. I love my family, and it's a lot more difficult when you're only getting a weekend with them, or you're only getting a phone call with them every now and again. So for me, the next move, I want it to be the final one. That's where I settle. That's where I say, okay, I've got that peace of mind knowing this is where I'm going to lay my roots, and I can start to build on that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that is something for me that I always kind of desire. I'm like, I want to be in a place. When you moved around so much, you know, you get tired of moving to a new place, like moving to London again. A lot of those cons you mentioned there, I had those cons hard in London because I'm not in a place with my girlfriend's not living here. She's living in another country. I'm like, why have I moved to another city where I don't have much friends? My girlfriend lives somewhere else.
Yeah.
What has possessed me to do this? Just because I feel like I need to for some other unearthly reason. So obviously these things go run in my head, and with moving back to America, me and Elena will be making decisions in like, where do we want to kind of lay our roots? You know, where do you especially start thinking about finances? Where do we want to buy a home? Where do we want to do this? But again, I have to check myself or remind myself that my subconscious is one that does keep moving, and I have desires of where I see moving to America is a final. You know, I don't see myself moving to another country after that. No.
Yeah.
I did have a dream the other day where I was like, I'd moved to Australia. That's just happening. But I do see that after so many years, I've accepted the fact that I may think about moving. I may desire to live in different places. Like our thinking now is like, we'll move to California when we first get back to America, and then move back to North Carolina when we want to settle down. And so I'm leaving myself open to those thoughts of living in different places and being away. I'm happy with the fact I'll be away from home. I've understood that that's happening. But where will my mind take me in terms of living in a different state, living in a different city? Will I want to continue moving? Because I do desire that comfort and settling, because it gets so tiring. But I think that will change as obviously work and life and family changes for you. Your perspectives kind of change. So
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, anything can happen. There's
exactly.
all sorts of wild factors that can come into play. You know, life is spontaneous. That's a beautiful thing about life. You never know what's going to happen. For me, the reason why I feel like now it's the next move, whether I stay in Manchester or whatever, the next decision I make in terms of my future is where I want to settle, is because I feel for all the pros that there are living away, they kind of become redundant at a certain point once you've done it after a while. Because let's list some off. The pros of living away is the maturity you gain from it.
Yeah.
Having to deal with bills and living in your own groceries, your own washing, like can be completely independent and away from your family. Again, I feel like you need that, and that's why I'm so happy. I was able, and not just uni. That's why again I keep making that distinction. Not just uni is different. I feel like I need to move away, be in a different flat and work away, and be able to be completely independent to actually get that maturity that I was after. Have feel like I'm growing up now. This is at this age, these are the kind of moves I want to be making, and I want to be getting my mindset in a more mature state. However, now it's like I've done that, and I feel like I am mature. So that pro is kind of redundant now. Another pro of living away, the social skills you build from living away, because you have to go and make friends, you have to socialize, you have to start to build on those soft skills of just small talking with people and like getting to know people. Yet again, you do that at uni, but it's so much further when you're in a work environment. You have to because we're not talking about people complete different ages when you get into work environment. We're not talking about everyone the same age where it's easy to have a football conversation or a music conversation that we've been having. We're talking about people who are like 20, 30 years older than you who may not have those interests. So those soft skills that you're learning just from speaking to these random people, I think that is such a benefit of living away, because you're forced into those environments, and I feel like you should put yourself in those environments.
I think.
Go on.
No, yeah, I was going to say, I think those 2 points you just said, they kind of go back together on the point of resilience, like moving away from home, whether it's financial resilience and fending for yourself in a different way, whether it's meeting new people, new jobs, new city, new location. You're always having to fend for yourself, and those are huge skills. One thing I think I fear in all that is, like, say you said you've done it.
Yeah, I've done those now. So for me, they're redundant.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas for me, that's like, well, I could have done it for 2 years, right? I could have lived somewhere else for 2 years. But say then the next 10 years you spend in Manchester, do you think those 2 years are that impactful that you've now completed it? Have you not then just gone back into the comfort space because you've done it once and it's achieved? I agree you don't have to keep on doing it again and again and again to develop it. But I do think there's something to be said to, and it doesn't have to be achieved through moving. That can be achieved through going and doing life experiences, changing jobs. If it's more fitting to you, having to travel just to go out and vacation in different spaces and vacation different ways, that's not just sunbathing, right? But that feeling that you're done, that worries me, that worries me. I feel like there is something to still be achieved, but again, it does get to a certain point where is there a real benefit to moving away? Is meeting another person really helping me?
Well, I think again it comes to obviously your personality. Like you said, you're scared. You feel like, for me, it's like I'm a different personality. It's just like, even like, someone could argue you've only been there for 2 years. There's still so much more you still need to learn and do, and like, you still need to go. For me, it's like I'm happy. I'm fine with what I've done in Manchester. I'm happy with the experience. I feel like fulfilled from that experience of moving out, gaining that independence. Now I'm getting to an age and stage where, like we've mentioned before, it's tiring to keep doing this. It's tiring to keep putting yourself out there and to keep meeting new people and to keep going to different cities. And even if you say, like you say, it doesn't have to be moving away, it can just be through different life experiences. I guess that aligns better with me then. Yeah, that would make more sense. I don't think maybe I'm not done in that aspect. But from like a moving standpoint, from thinking about moving in a different location, there's only so much I can take.
Yeah, and to be honest, I completely agree too, because I have the notion of, for Charlotte, North Carolina, spent there 4 years. I've completed it. Like in a sense, like if I move back to North Carolina in any sense, yes, if I move to another city, I live in Raleigh, there's different experience, but I can see it. Like I was mentioning Nottingham. If I lived in Nottingham for the rest of my life, I can see what that would look like. If I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina for the rest of my life, I can see what that looked like. And that's also taught me. I initially thought I was a city boy through and through. I'd love to live in London, love to live in the city for the rest of my life. Through my experience of living in different places, I realized that's not me. Being in London has taught me. I was only there for just under a year before Corona started, right? And that taught me I'm not the Londoner I thought I wanted to be. Like, I do like London. I do think it gives me a lot of energy being there.
Yeah.
But I don't need London. Like, I thought I needed to be in that environment, and I don't need it. And it was quick understanding that. And I don't think I need to go off and search for anything. But I see our speed of talking increasing because we both know we're coming to the end of the podcast and we've got so much to say on this topic. So all I want to do quickly is we've had so much discussion, right? And we've had so many different points. Let's just say 3 pros, 3 cons, and close it up, because we gave a lot of rationale, and if we don't need to continue giving rationale, that's for another discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, give me 2 pros of living at home, living away, and 2 cons of living away.
2 pros is, well, 1, the people.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so happy. The people I've met from living away, whether that's uni or Manchester, loved it. Happy to have met those people and build those relationships. Pro 2 is again, I mentioned it quickly before, maturity. I feel like I've grown so much as a person, and I'm so much more mature now, and I've got so much a better understanding of the world. So that's quickly 2 pros. 2 cons, family. I'm such a family man, and it gets tough sometimes living away from them. It really does. And it's a struggle for me in Manchester sometimes. So definitely being away from family is pro. And pro number 2, finances. Because at this stage right now, boy, I still feel like I'm a student sometimes. I'm broke. Like, it's bad. And like, I just want to get into a position where I'm just, I can be comfortable with my finances again. But
Yeah.
soon come.
And I'm just going to reiterate those points and maybe just say it a little bit different way. But definitely the pros for me living away from home is that you're gaining new experiences. And I think new experiences are endlessly valuable. You know, living in different places, gaining new perspectives is always going to grow you, you know, and it's always something that's amazing to have. And those skills you learn are going to be great. The cons, like, even me, a person who does like to go away and live in space, it's not easy being away from home and seeing your friends and family do things and you not being involved.
Yeah.
That's something you're always going to struggle with, no matter how much you think you are something else, think you are a traveler. If you are away from your friends and you're away from your family, it is not fun. It is not fun to see that and to be that. And so there is a hard line of where does that cross over as being away for too long or being too far away, and where is that good? But I think that's all we've got today. I've enjoyed it. I'm annoyed. Me and Suneet are trying our best to keep it to an hour so we don't have these varying podcast lengths.
We may have to do a part 2 on this one because we've got a lot to say. Because it's so personal. We've got so much to say on it. I think that's why this one may have gone a little bit over.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate everyone who's listening, everyone who's feeding back. Please continue to give us some feedback as we develop and try and get better at having these conversations. But I hope you enjoyed it. It's been a good one. We really were touching on talking life in this one, talking locations, talking living away from home. So from me, peace.
Peace, guys.